This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
iHeart presents the Big Three Playoffs. This Sunday, the remaining 4 teams battle to make the championship in the most physical, fierce, and competitive basketball league in the world. The action starts with the Big Three Monster Energy Celebrity Game. Then Dwight Howard and his LA Riot take on Montrezl Harrell and Dr. J Chicago Triplets. The finale will see popular Miami 305 with stars MVP Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson take on Nancy Lieberman's Dallas Power. Who will make it to the Big Three Championship? The no-holds-barred action starts Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, only on CBS.
Fan.
Welcome back, Pirate Ship Morning Show, 8:01.
Yeah. This is going to be the best.
It's going to be the best.
Man.
St. Paul Saints are the best.
They are the best. But again, we mentioned this a couple of hours ago. Last year, they had Terry Kaiser from Weekend at Bernie's come in, and it was super awesome. He was the nicest guy ever. Tons of fun down at CHS Field. And then while he was here, his house was burning down in Colorado.
Yeah, that sucked.
Let's hope that doesn't happen to Larry or John. That would be the worst.
Yeah. Well,
dude lost his house while he was hanging with us.
That's not going to happen. I mean, I don't know why you even put that in their head.
It's not 0%. Let's just hope it doesn't happen.
Absolutely 0%. Now that you've made them angry, could you introduce our guest, please?
John O'Hurley and Larry Thomas are here. If you are a Seinfeld fan, this is huge, man. You guys are the best.
This guy is
unbelievable.
We're not the best.
But it's a hard claim.
We're pretty darn good.
So says John.
Yeah.
Wow.
So cool, man. John, I don't know if you guys were listening on the way in, but I just learned about 50...
Of course we were.
50 minutes ago.
Yeah, they're big-time listeners.
I didn't know if Derek made you listen or not. I didn't know until about 50 minutes ago that J. Peterman and the J. Peterman catalog was a real thing.
It still is.
I thought it was a fictionalized bit. I thought Seinfeld was making fun of somebody, and J. Peterman was the embodiment of some other magazine guy. Didn't know it was real.
Well, I'll add another something else that you're not aware of is I own the company now.
We just
2 years after Seinfeld ended, the real J. Peterman company went belly up, and I was in New York one day, got a phone call from John Peterman and said, I've got the intellectual property rights back to the company. Do you want to put it together under our parallel strengths? And so heretofore, since 2000, I have owned the company with him.
That's so cool.
I liked the role so much, I bought the company.
That's so great.
Now, the same thing can be said of Larry.
Yeah, that's what's interesting. You've got the two people here that played real-life characters. You know, I didn't know it when we were doing the show, but at one point, like on the final day of rehearsal, Jerry said to the writer, Spike, he goes, tell Larry a little bit about how the real guy behaves. And I went, there's a real guy? Wow. You know.
Get out of here.
And then later, about 8 years later, I was in New York doing a play, and I saw the soup stand, and I went in there to meet him, and I thought I was going to get yelled at or something, but he was like, oh, you're very funny, you know.
And he wasn't as mean as your character was.
He is with the customers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is his name Yev Kassem, or was that name just completely fictionalized?
His name was Al Yeganeh, but I've talked to customers of the soup stand because I spent some time working with the guys that own it now on a completely unrelated issue. But I heard that he would give free soup to homeless people and police officers, and he would yell and scream at pregnant women. So he was just a loose cannon. Yeah. So evidently, like, I was meaner than he could be at times, but not as mean as he could be at times.
Well, I do want to mention once again, if you want to go down and meet these two, it's a night about nothing. The ticket package is available right now. Outfield reserve ticket, Saints t-shirt, and a meet and greet with Larry Thomas and John O'Hurley from the TV show Seinfeld. You can get that on now at saintsbaseball.com, saintsbaseball.com, to actually meet our guests in person tonight at the lovely CHS Field. You guys probably haven't had a chance to see that place yet, have you?
I have not yet. No, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of minor league ball. I really do. I just love the whole concept of the fact that families can still go to a baseball park and not have to empty their wallet in the parking lot.
Yep. Saints do it right.
Yeah, they're great.
The best.
Yeah,
and
it's wonderful.
It's always fun to do these games as we're doing tonight because you never find an audience in a better mood. You know?
Yeah.
They're just
good point.
Everybody goes to a game looking for a great time, and of course, we have the first pitch to throw out. We'll jostle over that. Actually, I would just as soon have Larry throw the first pitch out, and I would prefer to throw the last pitch out. While it may disturb the coach a little bit to be 2 outs in the ninth, the bases are loaded, and now we're going to have our celebrity come on.
Meet your man.
Would you please welcome John O'Hurley?
It sounds like eventually you guys are going to own the team anyway. It's just a matter of when.
I actually would like John to throw out the first pitch because you always have to explain to people, actors are actors because they couldn't play baseball.
Yeah.
If we could, we would be baseball players and not actors.
So you guys both joined Seinfeld when it was already established, right? It wasn't, you guys weren't season one. Jay Peterman was what, 5 or 6?
I did the last 5 seasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Soup Nazi was what, 7? 7.
Yeah.
So when you guys were on the show, Seinfeld had been established. It wasn't an upstart. But did you have any idea that 30 years later that it was such a big deal and your characters were so iconic that 30 years later it was still going to matter to you and you were still going to get recognized for those performances 3 decades later?
I would say to the extras that were in my office scenes or anywhere else, I would say, save the script. Make notes on the script of everything you can possibly remember because you will be watching the show with your grandchildren someday.
Wow.
And I said, I can't say that about any other show you're going to do or I have done. And to this date, we've been right.
See, you had vision that I didn't have. The first episode I ever saw was the parking garage. And I remember my first wife was an actress too. So we were sitting there and we watched it and I said, that's the most brilliant comedy I've ever seen, but it's not going to work. And she said, why? And I said, because, it's too like New York. It's too urban. It's too specific. No one's going to get this. And she goes, well, I'm from Indiana and I get it. I'm from Brooklyn, And I said, well, maybe it has a chance. And then we watched it religiously, and then in season 7, I get this audition and it was like, I'm auditioning for Seinfeld. And then getting on it was, it was amazing. So it was a job where I spent all week, the rehearsal week, just sitting in the bleachers watching the Jerry's living room scenes unfold. And I was just amazed. I remember at one point there's a moment in my episode where they're arguing, George and Jerry are arguing about the schmoopy thing.
Yep.
And Julia just goes, wouldn't it be funny if I kind of got up and sauntered over towards the door and then left just when he needs me, when he goes, right, Elaine? And Andy Ackerman, the director, goes, yeah, give it a try. Wow. And she did it. And it's in the episode, but it wasn't in the script. Wow. And that's how, it went. I was just sitting there as an actor, an improv comedian, whatever. I'm just going like, oh, that's paradise, man.
Yeah. Right.
And Julia was such a powerhouse. And obviously, John, your character dealt with her all the time because she worked at the J. Peterman catalog. But she was just so good.
It was a little bit like the surreal version of Lou Grant and Mary Tyler Moore, I think. We had that type of a relationship. Yeah, she was, to her credit, I think the greatest female physical comedian that contemporary comedy has right now. I think she goes down with the ship. She'll do anything for the laugh, and you only have to look at the Elaine dance to know that simple proof that she's a trooper.
It's so true. Yeah, and of course, Veep is one of my favorite shows of all time. There's so many jokes in that you have to watch the episodes 3 times to catch them all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and the 4-letter words, which is so strange. Which is so strange to listen to them coming out of her mouth.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
I know one of the actresses had a phrase that I met the cast one time, and I repeated the phrase as like, that's like the craziest thing I've ever heard on air. I can't even say it.
Yeah,
sure.
right.
It's got the F word in it.
Yeah.
But, I said, did they actually write that in the script or did you just go off? And she goes, no, that was written in the script. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy dialogue, but it always worked. And of course, Julia can be funny doing anything, which is also kind of ironic because she was always the first one to break up. And, the first time I yelled "no soup for you" at her, she fell on the floor. And she, got up and she grabbed my hand and she goes, "You're so funny."
Oh, that's great.
So good.
What a confidence builder that is, right?
Yeah, especially since to this day, I don't know what's funny about it. I don't. Everywhere I go, someone goes, "Yell it at me," and I go, "No soup for you." And once I met the Scrubs writers, and that's how I ended up doing an episode of Scrubs, because they said, do the line. And I went, "No soup for you." And they went, "You don't mind that?" And I went, "My mother makes me do it." But yeah, to this day, I always say to people, what is funny about that?
Let's keep talking about how you guys profited off of this. Like, did you had no option to trademark that, correct? I assume that was owned by Seinfeld?
Well, yeah,
or NBC or whatever it is, yep. Because, man.
Topical language, though, you can't really.
Sure.
That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I talked to a merchandise person at Warner Brothers once that said, if anybody, some guys tried to trademark it one time for T-shirts that didn't have anything to do with Seinfeld, and they said, like, we don't care. We'll always back you on it, because I have to say it and write it almost every day of my life.
Yeah.
And, Warner Brothers, who owns the rights to the show itself and the merchandising, said, we'll always back you on it. So.
That's good.
A question for somebody who knows nothing about how television is made or done, especially sitcoms and such. Was Larry David on set when you guys were filming at all? I don't know what a showrunner does.
Yes, not only, but he more so than anyone, because a lot of the last minute jokes that were put in were Larry saying, "Hey, go say this word here, say this word there," and it was stuff that was never in the script.
Wow.
But it was just at the last minute, just something seemed appropriate.
Yeah, my two of my things from that episode were "Adios, muchacho" was not what I said to the Spanish guy, but at about 3:00 in the morning, when everybody was gone, Larry goes, "Don't take off your costume. I got two things I want you to do." And so one of those was, to say "Adios, muchacho." So I ended up playing that with Larry. Because I've never done Curb, but I did get to act with him in that moment. But you don't see him. They cut back to the guy that did it like hours earlier in the evening. And the other thing was when she did when Julia did the Al Pacino thing, I originally just yelled "no soup for you," but he wanted me to go like, very good, you know something? What? No soup for you.
Which is, to your point about him being so mean to, quote, pregnant women in real life, but really charitable. She's giving the soup Nazi a compliment, and he still has no patience for,
yes.
You look like a young Al Pacino, and he's like, I don't have time for this. You're out of here. It's such a fun, that's what's funny about it, is how can you be so, just absolutely uninviting to a compliment? John, do you have a favorite J. Peterman moment?
Oh, the monologues. I mean, Peterman gave the writers a chance to write in long form rather than just writing clippy dialogue.
Right.
And but unfortunately we were the most disorganized show on television, so inevitably the show was 10 minutes too long each week, but I had a monologue in each one of them. Yeah, I have one. I'll do one for you if you want to hear.
Of course. Oh my gosh,
course.
yes.
This was in the Friars Club episode when I mistakenly thought that Elaine was having a tete-a-tete on office time with a guy named Bob. And so I decided to walk into her office and play Cupid. So I slapped down 2 tickets to the Karamazov Brothers Circus, and I told her that she and Bob could knock off a little early to get ready. Well, she looked at me as though I had grown a second head, and she said, "Bob?" And I said, and this was what was cut. I said, "Elaine, don't worry. I, too, am no stranger to love on the clock. As a young lad, my father apprenticed me to a honey factory in Belize. The chief beekeeper was this horrible hag of a woman with gnarled teeth and a giant wart that she called a nose. Ooh, she was not attractive, even by backward standards. But love is truly blind, Elaine, and as the days went on, working closer and closer together, that sweet smell of honey in the air, I knew I had to have that horrible creature. And I did, so you and Bob have a good time tonight.
I got the chills.
That's fantastic.
That was awesome.
So you get the impression if they needed to trim 2 minutes off the show, that was going.
That felt a little bit like the speech that Peterman gave at Susie's funeral when the character lies about sleeping with her out of nowhere.
And we succumbed to passion, and it was pretty good.
Oh, God, that's great.
That's so good.
I'll tell you, that was a very strange episode because from the initial table read with the network, that was an absolute tanker of an episode. And I turned to Michael Richards, who was sitting next to me at the table read, and I go, "This is terrible." He goes, "Don't worry, they'll punch it up." Well, guess what? They didn't. And during the week, we got to Tuesday night taping, and the show still didn't have an ending. We had no ending for the show. So at 10:30, they sent everybody home. They sent the audience home. Remember, we had a live studio audience, and everybody sat around and twiddled their thumbs while the network and the writers got together. And they finally put an ending to the show, which was that Peterman had an affair with her. And that was it.
An imaginary character.
That was
They made it up.
Of course. That was the...
My favorite Peterman was just 2 words. The horror.
Oh, the horror.
I mean,
Elaine, do you have any idea what happens to a butter-based frosting after 6 decades in a poorly ventilated British basement? I have a feeling what you're about to go through will be punishment enough.
See, I laugh harder at the first time you tell her the purchase that you just made, right? I'm not trying to put you on the spot if you remember those lines, but when you're so excited about your latest acquisition, the way that you kind of lean back in your chair and tell her that you just spent whatever it is, $29,000.
Duchess of Windsor, the wedding cake, $29,000.
and she's horrified because she knows she just ate it. It's such a good.
And replaced it with a $2 and replaced it with a $2 sentence. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, there were some priceless moments.
It's just brilliant.
Love it.
Yeah. What a cool thing.
Yeah.
And it was fun watching Seinfeld those first couple seasons try to get their feet set, right? Because it's very different the back half of the show than the first half, just because, I don't know, like you said, Larry, it was so new. I think even they were trying to figure out what their voice was, but they got it, obviously, to a historic level.
Get to see those few episodes in season 1 and 2 till like way later on.
Yeah.
You know, when they were available. But yeah, you can see how everything changed. It morphed so much more than almost any other show. And like Michael Richards always said, you know, at the beginning of the show, I was the dumbest guy in the room. At the end of the show, I was the smartest guy in the room. So Kramer morphed like crazy. And, you know, so did everybody else and the humor.
The problem with the first season, the first season was 4 shows.
Yeah.
The problem with it is that they didn't know how to play their own material. And I noticed this because I remember after the first read through of Peterman's introduction to the show, when I meet Elaine on the street, she says, I bump into her in the rain, and she says, "I'm sorry, I wasn't looking where I was going." I said, "Well, that's the best way to get to someplace you've never been." And the trouble was you had to play it as a drama. Seinfeld wasn't funny if you were looking for jokes. There were no jokes in the show. In fact, at the end of the first read-through, I called my manager and I go, "This is the #1 show on television." I said, "It's not funny." And it wasn't funny. And what I didn't understand yet was that if you play the scene at the highest stakes that you possibly, if you play it like Streetcar Named Desire, it's funny. If you play it any less than that, it's not funny. And that was the problem with the first 4 episodes. They didn't have their stride yet. Wow. They weren't playing it for the real meat of the tour de force quality of the show. I mean, you look at George. You know, if you give that role to any other porty fat guy in Hollywood, that the show would have tanked. But the fact that he is such a tour de force actor, that he played everything with intensity. he was passionately mediocre.
That was the library inspector guy,
Bookman.
Yes, thank you.
Of course,
I've seen multiple interviews where
Joy boy.
I don't remember if it was Larry David or Jerry Seinfeld basically said like that's one of their favorite scenes in the entire series because that's essentially what they told that actor is, no, you're playing this as straight as possible. You need to take it seriously. Like this book and the fact that it's overdue is like a murder.
You have to play it like Friday on Dragnet.
Yeah. And Philip Baker Hall was a really great actor. And you could see Jerry throughout that scene, just his mouth is having so much trouble not laughing. You know, and that's what they aired. So you can imagine rehearsals where Jerry was just cracking up and falling on the floor. But yeah, that's one of my favorite. Yeah, although my favorite guest star was a guy named Charles Levin who played Shaky the Moyle.
Yes, he wonderful.
I Facebook messaged him one time when he was with us, and I said, was there any ad-libbing in that monologue about the wine glass so close to the edge of the table? And he goes, no, it was all scripted.
Wow.
And he was another like really accomplished, dramatic actor. And that's what they did. I mean, I remember going to the callback, which, I had to do two auditions, and I just kept telling myself, don't try to be funny. This guy is serious. He's trying to run a business. And that was, Jerry even said, like, I went through like all 6 scenes in the callback and they brought me back in and I was reading up against a marvelous, another actor we've lost, Richard Libertini. And I thought, well, I have no chance. He's here. And, I did it and Jerry laughed a lot, but he brought me back in and he goes, don't, do it again and don't be so mean. You know what I mean? It was funny, but don't be so mean. I couldn't repeat what I did in that audition again for anything. I don't know what I was doing. Wow. Because it didn't make sense to me. Soup Nazi. He's mean.
He's mean.
Yeah. And I tried to do it and nobody laughed. It was literally crickets going off in the room. And when I ended up getting the part, it was like, why? I blew it.
How did Jeffrey Tambor have to how was he involved in your career, if you don't mind?
Well, I was taking an acting class, and Jeffrey was I was in the advanced version of the class, and Jeffrey was in the master's class with a guy named Milton Katsalis. And Jeffrey would substitute teach our class quite often, and he and I seemed to really hit it off. He seemed to like what I did, and I loved his critiques and stuff. And I was under threat of being kicked out of class if I didn't get a job within 6 weeks at one point, because I hadn't worked, professionally in too long a time for our teacher. And my classmate said, ask Jeffrey for a favor. And I went, no, you don't understand. I mean, this guy's already being kind to me. And he's one of the greatest actors in the business. And I'm not going to ask him for $5, And so they made me write him a little note and say, hey, could you introduce me to the guy that cast the Larry Sanders Show? So he set up a what they call a general with a guy named Mark Hirschfeld. And I didn't know he cast Seinfeld as well. But we had a general, which is sort of a lose-lose situation because, they go like, oh, so what have you been up to? And, they've heard 5'9".
Yeah.
There's almost nothing you could say, but I was a bail bondsman at the time. That was my day job. And evidently that really caught his attention. And so we had this great hour-long conversation about the bail bond business. Nothing about acting. And at the very end, I was, he goes, well, thank you. This was really fun. And I'm getting up to leave. And he goes, oh, by the way, it says here on your resume that you do dialects. And I went, yeah, with a face like mine, you have to. And he just goes like, okay, great. Well, I also cast Seinfeld. And sometimes we need guys, streets of New York with different dialects. And I went, oh, great. I love Seinfeld. Think of me. But, that was like, yeah, right. Yeah, and about 2 weeks later, I get this call from this agent that I had who I call him a warehouse agent because he would take on everybody and stick your pictures in a warehouse. And, and he literally called me one night and goes, Larry, this is, Mike, your agent? I'm going, yeah, Mike, I know you. And finally, by the time I got the call back, he called me saying, you got a call back for Seinfeld. I had to say to him, Mike, could you stop ending every sentence in a question mark? Because you're beginning to make me nervous. Yeah, it was a crazy situation, and Jeffrey had everything to do with it,
Wow.
Got to be lucky and got to be ready.
Yeah,
Right? Got to
the
be
right
both.
moment.
Yeah,
Yep.
that is very cool.
That's awesome. All right, more with Larry Thomas and John O'Hurley
Do they have
after
time
this.
to stay? Can they
you
stay
stick
longer,
around,
Derek,
or not? Couple more minutes, or what?
Is that
Yeah.
cool?
All right, cool.
Okay, great.
We have nowhere else to go.
I'll get
You don't have to be in CHS Field till tonight.
That's right. A night about nothing tonight at CHS Field, Saints baseball. The package includes an outfield reserve ticket and a Saints T-shirt and a meet and greet with Larry Thomas and John O'Hurley from the Seinfeld show. Meet and greets
also,
from 5:30 to 6:30. By the way.
Huge fan of game shows in general. And Mark Parrish back there, his family has been on Family Feud, but not when John O'Hurley
Yeah,
was
a
the
little
host,
late.
correct?
Wife was a little bit late for you, unfortunately, John.
Man, almost got to meet the Parrish family,
So
John. It
cool.
would have changed your life.
Oh, yeah, let me tell you.
I have many wonderful stories about Family
I
Feud.
can't wait. We'll ask you about it in a second. More with Larry Thomas and John O'Hurley after this. Power Trip Morning Show on The Fan.
The Fan.
The reviews and ratings are in, and Ice Cube's Big 3 is the surprise hit of the summer. And to cap off the season, iHeart presents the Big 3 Basketball Playoffs. This Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, the remaining 4 teams battle it out for the right to make the Big 3 championship in the most physical, fierce, and competitive basketball league in the world. The action starts with the Big 3 Monster Energy Celebrity Game, where your favorite stars compete in Big 3 3-on-3 basketball. Then the first of 2 semifinal games features Dwight Howard and the LA Riot taking on Montrezl Harrell and Dr. J's first-place Chicago triplets. The finale will see popular Miami 305 with stars MVP Michael Beasley, and last will Make You Dance Stevenson take on Nancy Lieberman's Dallas Power, who finished the season winning 5 straight weeks to capture second place. Can Glenn Rice, Greg Monroe, and Paul Millsap stop Miami's physical assault, or will Miami and Beasley put an end to Dallas's winning ways? Who will make it to the Big 3 championship? This no-holds-barred action starts Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, only on CBS.
Back to the Power Trip Morning Show, Wednesday, August 20th. Super big day if you're a fan of Seinfeld. This has been super trippy, super cool. John O'Hurley is here. Larry Thomas is here. They played Jay Peterman and the Soup Nazi, respectively, on Seinfeld. Just an absolute powerhouse of a show.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Never been, I told these guys when I just introduced myself too, is like, I have been so intensely staring at the back of their heads with every word they say.
Not my best feature.
Well, I got no choice from back here.
And you'll notice that some of my hair is real.
Looks great. Looks great, guys. Looks great from back here.
So again, an hour and a half ago now, when I learned that Jay Peterman is a real person and now you own the company.
Oh, my Lord.
That makes the real Peterman tour episode even more trippy.
It does, doesn't it?
Because now it makes more sense that you guys were probably making fun of that on some level, and I had no idea that was the joke.
Well, yeah, it was funny. And when I first got the role, all they did was hand me the catalog, the Jay Peterman catalog, and they say, we just want it to sound the way the catalog is written. And if you haven't seen the catalog, it is the most bizarre thing. It is it's a Hemingway novel about an Oxford button-down. Tom Hanks came up to me once and he said, I read the catalog. He says, I save it on the bedside. He said, and I read it to read it at night. He says, but I use your voice.
That I'd like to hear.
That's awesome. So, all right, so another dumb question, ignorant question, but why not? Because I've already been surprised a couple times this morning. Was there something like the urban sombrero in the actual Peterman catalog? Okay.
No, but and this was something that John Peterman and I always had a cantankerous relationship with one another. We'd go to the board meetings together and we'd kick and scream. And, he was always saying things like, this internet thing is never going to catch on. People aren't going to buy, it's like, you got to be kidding me. And so I always said to him, we have to do the urban sombrero as a sight gag. Just people will buy it.
Yep.
So I said, let's do one. And we'll do them as collector items so that they would be certified. So this would be one of 20. So, well, sure enough, we put it on the cover and we sold them, and we sold every blessed one of them. And they went for, some of them went for charity, but they went for as much as $10,000.
$10,000.
Wow.
I have a friend who bought one for $10,000.
Wow.
He bought one of one. He bought the first one.
Whoa.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Well, because it was such a sight gag, you know. And it's like all you have. It's like one of those things you say. It's like no soup for you. Say urban sombrero. Everybody gets it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn.
Well, that's what that show did. You know, it put certain things in the lexicon of society. And, you know, there's a lot of catchphrase. People always ask me, like, you know, how does 6 minutes on a television show, you know, give you that kind of longevity? And Anson Williams once went 30 million viewers. And I went, yeah, that. But also, you know, there are phrases that people use every day. And I think one of the reasons why my character is popular to this day is because I'm one of the guest people that had a catchphrase. Usually it was just them. Like, not that there's anything wrong with that and, you know, whatever. Yeah. But I was lucky enough to get one as a 6-minute guest star, you know. And believe me, 6 minutes. I put every scene on a videotape after I did the show to be because, you know, my reel before that was a bunch of like really bad horror films and stuff. And so I just decided I'm just going to put all 6 scenes from Seinfeld on here, you know, because it's the best stuff I've ever done.
Yeah, why not?
And it came out to like 6.00. So I had 6 minutes of the show.
6 minutes again, though. 30 years later, we're still talking about those 6 minutes. Right? It's unbelievable. All right, let's talk Family Feud for a second, John O'Hurley, because Mark Parrish back there again, his family was on it, but that was the Steve Harvey era, correct?
Yes, it was.
What year was that?
This was it was like 2012, 2013.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, I didn't look it up, but what is it? About 6 or 7 hosts in the history of the show, give or take, somewhere in that range.
Somewhere around, I think 6. I think, but I had a great time. I did 5 seasons of it, which was just plenty for me. They were about to move the show to Orlando. And my contract was up, and I said, "Well, that's where game shows go to die." So, and it was also conflicting too much with the fact I was on Broadway doing Chicago the musical, and it was just really conflicting. So I finally said, you know, I've done 5 seasons. That's plenty. No one has to. But I have some great memories of the show because I'll tell you, I mean, people turn into deer in the headlights when you put a television camera on. I had 2 guys, now otherwise very intelligent guys, college graduates, I'm sure, come up to the face-off. And the question was this: name a classic film that begins with the letter C. And you would say? Casablanca, Citizen Kane, sure, Caddyshack. Yeah. They were all up there on the board. Seabiscuit. And then inevitably, they would always put Grandma down on the end of the line. She was the 5th. Yep. She was the 5th. So, well, we're never going to get to her. Mm-hmm. Well, of course not. You always, you know, kept moving down. And so the question was up. We surveyed we surveyed 100 people. Top 6 answers are on the board. Name something that you would do on a first date to make yourself seem more attractive. And they're going down the line, and you would say cologne or all the stuff. I mean, it was just nonsense to get. Well, we get down to Grandma, and I grab her hand, and I give her a little kiss on her hand, and I say, all right, let's think back a little bit. And I said, all right, you're on your first date. Someone shows up and take you out. What would that person do to make themselves seem or be more attractive? And she looks at me straight in the eye, and she goes, stuff their pants with a vegetable?
Oh, God.
my kind of girl.
Wow. But I know, you know, I don't think you were there, John, but in 2001, I think it was, we did a Seinfeld Sidekicks version of The Weakest Link. And,
oh, wow.
You know, I was on the road with the Odd Couple at the time, touring, and I didn't want to be the dumbest actor in Hollywood, so I read 600 pages of the almanac to prepare, right? And then we were in a van going to one of the theaters one time, and it was 2001, right? So Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA was a hit again because of 9/11. And I said to the entire cast, I said, okay, topic for conversation. How would you like to be the guy who wrote a song that's making a lot of money because of 9/11? And we talked about it. And a few days later, I go on The Weakest Link. And you know what my first question was?
Who wrote that song?
Who's the country singer associated with God Bless the USA? And I stood there just going like, it wouldn't come to me. That's how nervous you get on a game show. And, I knew it, but it wouldn't come out.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You don't want to be nervous and be the one that has a viral clip for the rest of time, but being nervous is probably exactly what's going to make that happen. That really sucks.
Yeah.
And you must have seen that 1,000 times, John, right? Where just people were terrified to even be in front of a camera, let alone potentially answer something that made them look stupid.
Yep, I had a guy there about and a similar question about how do you make a date more romantic? Something you would do to a bath to make it seem more inviting. And you say, well, a candle or music or something like that. Get all the way down to him. He was on the end as well. And he said, 401k jelly. 401k.
He's on the right path.
And then someone invented it.
See, people are making money off you guys, but that aren't you guys. Well, so, Family Feud over the years, has gotten dirtier and dirtier, right?
there was, I didn't want to say it, but frankly, yes, it's become a penis joke.
It really is. That's what this show is, so we love that. But it is a very different show than it was when I was growing up.
It stopped being Family Feud and it started just Feud.
Totally.
Because it was just, and I was getting a lot of letters from people saying, you can't say this stuff we can't show the, dinner time. Time. So I said, it's time to leave the show.
It's a good point because I'm a game show nerd. I don't know, just grew up with them. So Game Show Network is on in my house a lot. And Match Game is the same way, by the way. Current Match Game, or the one that they just had with Alec Baldwin, is overwhelmingly filthy.
They don't trust that comedy doesn't have to go that far.
Yeah.
That's a good point. People say, what is your favorite job of all time? And it wasn't Seinfeld. It was when I was hosting To Tell the Truth. I had the funniest panel, and we had the funniest stories, and we didn't have to be dirty. We were creative, but it was absolutely the most enjoyable job that I had. That was the one where will the real so and so please?
Yeah. Great bit. Yep. That's the one going all the way back. That's the one even that they showcased in Catch Me If You Can, right? Where Leo's character was. Pretending to be on that show. Anyway, a great show. Yeah, it does break my heart a little bit because I loved Family Feud growing up so much. I kind of grew up in the Ray Combs era, but obviously Richard Dawson kissed everybody on the planet before that.
Yep.
So
on the lips, not the planet.
Yeah. Fair.
The planet probably would have been more appropriate.
No, but it just sucks. My youngest is 11, and there are definitely times on the Game Show Network I'm like, I should probably change the channel. This question's way too filthy. That sucks. Because I don't know. I don't think there was any of that when I was watching it growing up.
No, it was always.
As a huge Jeopardy fan, there is that one moment with Ken Jennings when Alex said, name a garden item that can also be a person of ill repute. And he goes, that would be a hoe, Alex.
Yeah.
It was a
great moment.
Rake.
But he's fantastic, by the way. I keep saying this. I'm not anti Alex Trebek. He's one of the goats. Ken Jennings is phenomenal at hosting that show.
Boy,
he's so good.
When Alex passed away, that was the biggest topic of conversation among my friends is who are they going to get?
Yeah, how?
Yeah. Hello.
And Ken Jennings is, thank goodness, they got someone great.
Yeah. Hey, since we're talking about the current state of game shows, let's talk about the current state of comedies because there aren't a lot of, the sitcoms aren't the same as the 90s when obviously they were just gigantic with Seinfeld and Friends and other ones. I don't know. There's few and far between when it comes to just standard 30-minute sitcoms in 2025. They seem to be kind of fading away.
Well, there's a formula that they try to use based on the Honeymooners. A schlubby guy and a hot wife. and they just use, and every once in a while it works, like the King of Queens, but it's like, get off the formula, because Seinfeld proved that if you get off the formula, you might have something extra special, but they won't. They won't greenlight something that doesn't have a formula, and that's why there isn't another Seinfeld.
Why is that? Because I understand maybe the networks are gun shy because they want to just print money, but some of these streaming services don't seem to care about money. They'll just cut a check. So why not have a streaming service like Netflix just go gamble and try something completely different? And they have, but I'm surprised they don't do it more.
Gamble, nobody wants to gamble with the bottom line.
Nothing runs faster from uncertainty than a dollar bill.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah. So,
it's true.
Do you guys do a lot of like Comic-Cons? If you don't like, do you like? I was talking to somebody who is in the same business you guys are in, and he does a ton of Comic-Cons, and he says those are like huge hits.
Yeah,
because that's where like fans can see you and get pictures and autographs and all that.
Larry and I both have gone. We've seen each other. Usually we're sitting next to each other. We're the 1-2 punch.
We did one just last year, but it's funny. It depends what else you've done. Like everyone's always said, we need to get a Seinfeld group together. And, it's not as big as you think it is, because everyone lines up like for John or for Patrick Warburton, whatever, because of the cartoon voiceovers. That's much bigger.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of anime, that does go on.
I once attended one years ago that was mostly Star Trek. And some guy comes up, and I wish you could see what I'm doing, but he kept like looking down at my picture, dressed as the soup Nazi, right? Mm-hmm. And looking up at me and looking down and looking up. And then he started to get this face like he was smelling cabbage cooking in the next room. And he finally goes like, "What episode were you in?" And meaning Star Trek, right?
Right.
And I went, "Well, that's actually from Seinfeld." And then his face got even worse, and he went, "Oh, I never liked that show." And he walked away. And I thought, well, why did he have to offer me that information? I didn't write it's like John Wayne doing Hamlet. I didn't write this crap.
His Comic-Con.
I mean, it was just like, it's like, if you're from Star Trek, you could be an extra and you'll make tons of money.
Right.
So being from a sophisticated comedy at Comic-Cons isn't always the best. But it is nice when people, they want to hear the stories that you like to tell from the show.
Sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of voiceover money, John, like, have you done audiobooks? Because if not, what are you waiting for? I was going to say, God.
I've written 3 books.
So I hope you voiced all 3 of those.
I voiced all 3 of my books.
Probably smart.
They're outstanding.
Awesome.
But because I host the National Dog Show on Thanksgiving Day.
We were just talking.
It's the best.
Yeah, but believe it or not, next to the Super Bowl, that is now the number 1 show on television. We get 30 million people watching the National Dog Show.
No kidding.
On Thanksgiving Day. We've been doing it for 24 years now.
My family watches it. It's on.
It bewilders me that show gets the kind of audience that it does.
Do you have a dog background, or did they just like your voice and your vibe, and they just thought you'd be a good host for it, or were you in that field in some way?
Let me tell you how the learning curve went. The first year they did the show, they brought the Old English sheepdog up to the judge, this elegantly gowned woman who was, put together like a judge would be, and if you don't know what an Old English sheepdog is, it's 80 pounds of hair and 2 pounds of actual dog. So she walks around to the back of the dog and she starts putting her hands all over the back of the dog. And I turned to my co-host, David Fry, the most knowledgeable man in the world of dogs. And I said, "David, can you explain to us what she's doing?" He says, "John, she's putting her hands on the dog." to make sure that the shoulders and the hips align with the written specification of what the perfect old English sheepdog should be. He said, because you can ruin a really good dog with a really bad dog with a really good haircut. And I said, you're telling me? I went to junior prom. And so she walks around to the front of the dog and starts picking through all of the hair on the dog's head. And I said, Dave, what is she doing now? He says, John, she's trying to find the eyes to gauge the attentiveness of the animal. And I said, really? I said, well, I'll tell you, if she picks through all of that hair and she finds only one eye, she's got the wrong end of the dog. There was my learning curve 24 years ago.
See, but that's the genius. That's why everybody loved the movie Best in Show, right? The yin and yang between the expert and the dry comic. It's just that movie was such a masterpiece.
Yeah, we had some wonderful time.
And my guess is you hear that about your broadcast all the time, right? That it's got to be a little bit of both.
It's a little bit of both. Yeah, I'm writing my jokes all year long.
It's tough to beat that one. That's very good.
You talked about your voiceover work a little bit there, John, and I know my generation in particular knows you perhaps best as King Neptune. Can you talk about just being, from the acting side on screen and then translating that to the cartoons?
It's the most voiceover for cartoons is one of the most beautiful jobs you can ever have because you can do it from anywhere. I've done it when I've been in England. I've been recording in the U.S. You can do it in a pair of pajamas. It doesn't matter. And I'm in and out. I can do an entire episode of a cartoon inside of 5 minutes, as long as I'm quick and they're taking one take. I can be in and out of there in no time at all. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, and always everything is always larger than life. That's the beautiful part of animated. Animated television. I just love it. And, the kids will always come up at the Comic Cons and say, do his voice. SpongeBob, that was quite a burger.
That's so good.
How often did you get asked that, just in the 90s or beyond? Just, is this your real voice? Or how much of that is the character, right? Because my guess is because it is so over the top. But it's not that far off from your voice. It's just an exaggeration of your voice.
It's just, it is. I really believe that the voice, the speaking voice, is a musical instrument. And if I sustain tone, I'm singing. And if I don't sustain the tone, I'm talking. But it's basically the same vocal cords that are doing the same thing. So, to me, it's, my voice was ironically, my voice was the last one to change in high school. I had a little squeaky voice up behind. All of a sudden, one day it went down here.
Well, since all of us
hasn't come back.
All of us do radio. I think all of us would switch voices with 100%. You in a heartbeat.
Amen.
Yeah.
Jeez,
it's outstanding.
That's the thing about voiceovers is if you don't have the voice going in and you're trying to do different voices, it doesn't,
Yeah, good point.
It doesn't always fly because how do you know you're going to have the exact one?
For sure.
As the Zoop Nazi, I was just imitating Omar Sharif. Seriously. They wanted a Middle Eastern accent, and I had done many accents before, but not that one. And so the night before the audition, I put in Lawrence of Arabia, and I listened to him go, "You're drifting, Lawrence. Stop drifting, be warned." And I went, okay, I'll do that.
That'll work.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's the best.
I love it. So cool.
Larry Thomas and John O'Hurley are going to be at CHS Field tonight. Derek, what time? 7? Game time 7.
And remember, the last pitch will be about 9:30. I'll be throwing that.
Just have him be the PA all night. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
You guys are the best. So cool you guys
That
came
was
in.
so
Nice
fun.
to meet
Awesome.
both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks to
A lot of
Larry
fun.
and thanks to John.
Thank
They're at the
you.
Saints game
Very
tonight.
kind. Thank you.
More of the Power Trip Morning Show tomorrow, 5:30 to 9. 9 to noon is next.
Listen back to today's Power Trip Morning Show or to hear previous shows, podcast us on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
iHeart presents the Big Three Playoffs. This Sunday, the remaining 4 teams battle to make the championship in the most physical, fierce, and competitive basketball league in the world. The action starts with the Big Three Monster Energy Celebrity Game. Then Dwight Howard and his Ellie Ryan take on Montrezl Harrell and Dr. J Chicago Triplets. The finale will see popular Miami 305 with stars MVP Michael Beasley and Lance Stevenson take on Nancy Lieberman's Dallas Power. Who will make it to the Big Three Championship? The no-holds-barred action starts Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 Pacific, only on CBS.